everybody, welcome back to another video. My name is Hunter Reviews, and today we will be doing my top 10 best movies of 2017. This was a surprisingly easy list to make because there were some great films this year, and there were some truly awful films. I will be coming out with my top 10 worst movies of 2017. But for now, we're going to focus on the top 10 best movies of 2017. Bear in mind, this is very biased. These are the films that I picked that I think should be on this list. So if you think that there are some movies that should be on this list but aren't on it, or they've been on my honorable mentions but they should still be on like the full top 10, I'm sorry. This is my list. This is my opinion. So yeah. Don't kill me in the comments, though. However, there are some films that came out in the USA in 2017 that I didn't get a chance to see, and those movies are Molly's Game, The Post, Phantom Thread. Those are movies that I haven't seen yet, but I will review. Sadly, those aren't appearing on my list because, yeah, I haven't seen them yet. But right now, we're going to focus on the top 10 best movies of 2017. I've been able to narrow it down to 10. And I do have an honorable mentions list. It's rather short. And I'm going to do my honorable mentions, then I'll get to the top 10. So let's start with our honorable mentions. We're just going to skim through these honorable mentions. I'm not going to really go into depth like I am with my top 10, but right now we're just going to skim through these honorable mentions. My first honorable mention is for Spider-Man Homecoming. Second honorable mention is Wind River. Third honorable mention is The Big Sick. My fourth honorable mention is Lady Bird. Fifth honorable mention is Call Me By Your Name. Sixth honorable mention is Get Out. Seventh honorable mention is I, Tonya. Eighth honorable mention is The Darkest Hour. Those were the films that I saw this year that were great but not good enough to make it on my list. So now let's talk about the best movies of 2017, starting off with The Florida Project. This was a film I saw very late upon its release, and I really wanted to see this film very earlier because of the reception that it was getting, but I'm actually glad that I saw it late because now that I could have taken in the film more. The Florida Project is an amazing masterpiece by Sean Baker, who I think that this is his directorial debut. This was one of the most whimsical movies I've ever seen. That's what I would name this film. It's very whimsical. Sean Baker was able to pull off a movie that was so experimental to the point where I almost got lost in this movie. This movie is just so wonderful. It was an escape from reality, which sometimes I need. This film gave me the experience of a lifetime. Sean Baker's direction in this movie is fantastic. Certain shots look great, fantastic. I mean, it's a very stylish looking film, and that's, I think, what Sean Baker was going for. The cinematography is amazing. It's very beautiful. It makes you feel like you're actually there. Most movies just give you a setting, but I actually felt like I was actually at Disneyland, like I was there with these characters. The story that was written for these characters was so in-depth. It was so creative and so magical. These characters felt so real, had so much depth to them, and they felt like characters that you can relate with a little. Willem Dafoe's performance is the best of the year. I think this might be his best performance in probably since the Green Goblin from Spider-Man. He's just so wonderful. He's so comedic, very funny, very elusive in the way that he performs most of his scenes. The child acting in this film is amazing, and of course the lead child actress, whose name is Brooke Monet, I think that's her name, or maybe that's her character's name, I'm not sure. But this film's child acting, and apparently her, it was fantastic. I love the acting in this movie, the characters, the writing, the direction, the cinematography. It was all grade A, and this is one of the most, again, I keep going back to that word, whimsical, because this movie felt like an escape from reality, moving into a new world. And the Florida Project did that very well, in my opinion. Moving on to number 9, my ninth favorite film of the year is a movie called Good Time by the Safdie brothers. This film is freaking amazing. Each scene feels like a continuation of the next or the scene before. It was so freaking great, and I loved A Good Time. It was more than a good time. It was a freaking fantastic time. This movie is directed by the Safdie brothers, who I haven't seen most of their films. Maybe they've directed one. I've heard they directed one, but I haven't seen that. I might go see that. But this, if this is their standout film, which it is, it's freaking amazing. The direction is so great. The way that most scenes are handled, the intensity of it all, the way that these scenes are filmed, they get so into the action. Hand gripping, like seat gripping, shaky cam and handheld sequences are what make this film very intense, builds up the intensity, the suspense that this movie just slides through the entire film. The cinematography is very grainy, very grounded, very raw, and it was fantastic. It felt like an A24 film. Like most A24 films, like Moonlight or The Florida Project, their cinematography feels like A24 films. And if you have seen an A24 film, you probably know what I'm talking about. Music was very electronic. It reminded me a lot of Gone Girl in a lot of ways, in the sense that it was very intense, very gratifying, and the scenes were so great with the music. It was amazing. The characters in this film are very well written and amazing. They have so much depth to them, and that's another thing. The story is so down to earth that it's amazing. The fantastical spectrum of it all, it definitely truly felt fantastic, and I love how these characters were written. The acting in this movie is spectacular. It gets some of the best performances out of the worst actors in the industry. Robert Pattinson gives his best performance in basically years. Benny Safdie is very fantastic. Jennifer Jason Leigh is so great in this film. All the performances were great. A Good Time was amazing, and I definitely implore you to go and see this film as fast as you can. Moving on to number 8. At number 8, I've placed Mother by Darren Aronofsky. This is an insane freaking movie. This film is metaphorical, very deep, very philosophical. And I think this will upset some mainstream audiences because maybe they don't get it, or maybe they don't understand what happened in the film like I did. I still have a lot of questions, but I don't really care about that because I had a great time with Mother. This was one of the most insane films I had seen all year. Darren Aronofsky wrote this film in 5 days, and yet it still manages to be so grounded and so deep. This film had a lot of deeper meanings to the story. It had a lot of deeper themes, and I love that about this movie. This movie also has a fantastic direction by Darren Aronofsky. The way he handles some scenes, they're knee-gripping scenes of intensity. I didn't know that this could be this intense. The characters were written very well. They're very, very great. All the performances in the film were fantastic. Ed Harris and Michelle Pfeiffer were great. Javier Bardem was fantastic, but I think the standout role was definitely Jennifer Lawrence as Mother. She was fantastic. She was so innocent, so fragile, and so just petite that it made the film so gratifying and put it up to a whole new spectrum. This was a deep film, very ongoing, and I was so into this film, and I loved it a lot. Mother was a film that I will never forget, and I will always remember. Moving on to my number 7, what I've placed at number 7 is Edgar Wright's Baby Driver. This was a fast-paced film. From start to finish, this was so funny. And the way that Edgar Wright writes his scripts, it's very funny, very goofy, and very droopy. But that's the fun in his scripts, and this is one of the best scripts he's probably ever written. Baby Driver is a fast-paced, very funny, and very quirky film. The music is always synced up to every single action that these characters do. It's so amazing to see how the music and the action scenes with these amazing characters, which by the way are fantastic, you get a lot with the music and the action, and I think that that's what kind of synced it up a little. Was each beat, each note was synced up to every single action, and that's where this film really gets its gravitas, where it really gets its full frontal exterior, where you get to see what the film's uniqueness and variety. The acting in this film was fantastic. There were so many great performances. Ansel Elgort was great as Baby. Lily James was fantastic as the love interest. John Hamm and Jamie Foxx were amazing. Kevin Spacey, everyone was fantastic in this film. Edgar Wright's direction is so meticulous and so evil, and his direction with the car chases and all these action scenes were so great. All in all, I definitely enjoyed Baby Driver, and it was one of the best movies of the year. My number 6 favorite film of the year is Logan, a very tragic, very dramatic film, and not so much more of a movie about superheroes, but more of a movie about character. This changed up the formula so much, because it didn't focus a lot on, oh, the beam shooting up into the sky, or someone in an iron suit, or someone who can turn into a green monster. This was about the characters, and I think that James Mangold handled this movie very, very well. The story and the characters mesh together so well. The action scenes in this film are also very great. The vulgar language mixed with the intense and gory, bloody action, they kind of just went hand in hand, and it went so great. Something that fans have been asking for from the beginning, and it was really great to see Logan just tearing up people, and it was a really great film. This film also has great performances. Hugh Jackman is at his best as Logan. He's so great in the film. Patrick Stewart is also amazing as Professor Xavier. The little girl, Daphne Keane, is wonderful as X-23. And Donald Pierce, played by Boyd Holbrook, is fantastic. This was just a tragic film about characters and story. Number 5 is a film that you might not have heard of, and that's okay if you hadn't heard of it, but it's a little mini French film called Raw. I'm not going to focus on it as much, and also number 4, but this movie was so horrific and so well done that I just could not leave it off my list. This was a very horrifying, very thrilling film about a vegetarian who turns into a cannibal. This film also had great performances. This movie also had great direction, great writing, great everything. This film was amazing. I don't want to go too much into it because I want you to experience this film. This was an insane film, and I loved it a lot. Just fantastic. Number 4 is Loving Vincent, an animated film that surpasses all those lousy, shameful Disney films that we've all been watching since we were children. But this film also has a way of delving into those themes. This movie is about Vincent van Gogh, and the animation is almost like his paintings. The way that they are painted, the way that they look all fantastic. The voice acting in this film was fantastic. Definitely one of the better animated films that just pushed all those other Disney productions out of the way. And to be honest, this is one of the best animated films I've seen in a very long time. Number 3 is Christopher Nolan's Dunkirk. This was a film that when I first saw it, I was kind of mixed on it, but when I saw it again, I loved the hell out of this film. This was a war movie that took its characters, put them in a situation, and didn't focus on them so much. This is more about the event and not so much about the characters, and I think that that was very intentional. Christopher Nolan's direction is so great. The way he handles these aerial dogfights, the way he handles these action scenes, the scenes on the beach, the scenes in the air, and even on the water, those intense scenes of war that we all love. Very well done, and Christopher Nolan did this perfectly. This is definitely one of his best directed film in years. Hans Zimmer was very fantastic in probably his best composed score he's done in years. The constant ticking was very intense, very, just stand still. I just sat there with almost no emotion on my face because I was just taken into the film. This film also has very great practical effects, which I was very surprised to see. Overall, I think that Dunkirk is a film that people have been giving praise, and I hope it keeps getting praise, because this is one of the best war movies I've seen in years. My number 2 is Blade Runner 2049. This is one of the best looking films of the year. Denis Villeneuve's direction is so amazing in this film. The way that he directs all of the scenes, they look fantastic and they are so great. The cinematography by Roger Deakins is magical. This is one of the best looking films I have seen all year without a doubt. This movie also has a story that doesn't need the help of the first movie. This film has a story that stands on its own with characters that you almost like. The performances were amazing. I loved them a lot. Ryan Gosling is great as Kay. Harrison Ford is amazing as Deckard. Jared Leto, thank God, he's finally in a movie where I don't have to say, I have to watch another Jared Leto performance. This is finally a performance where I can just sit there and enjoy an actor stepping back into the limelight. I loved Blade Runner 2049. This is an experience that I loved. If I didn't talk about this movie too much, it's because I also want you to see this film. It is so great and one of the best looking films of the year, like I said. And my number 1 film, the film that made me so happy, the film that made me go back to the theater, the film that I talked about the most with other people, my peers, my friends, is 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. This was a film that was wholly unique, wholly original, and so different from any movie that I have seen this year. This film was pushing the boundaries of what film could do. This film had an interesting story, and I think Martin McDonagh, both behind the camera and writing this script, because he did direct and write, and I think his direction is fantastic. I think his writing is even better. These are characters that are rich with depth, rich with emotions, and you care so much about these characters. And when certain things happen to the characters in this movie, you almost feel for them. You almost kind of feel sad for most of these characters, and I definitely did. That was a feeling that I got from this film, and the story is unique, rich, and very original. Like I said, all those things that I said about this script is definitely great. This is one of the best adapted scripts I have basically read all year. The acting by everyone is fantastic. Frances McDormand gives her best performance as Mildred Hayes. She is so great in this film, a force of nature. Sam Rockwell was great. He was so funny and so charismatic. And Woody Harrelson also gave an energetic performance. And these are all the reasons why 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri deserves to be my number 1 film of the year. So guys, those were my top 10 best films of the year. Sorry if most of your films didn't make it on the list, the films that you liked the most. But that's just what it's like. That's an opinion, right? Some of us have different views on movies. Thank you so much for watching. I will try and get more reviews in the future. I am planning to go and see Molly's Game on Thursday, so you can go and check out my review for Molly's Game. I will come out with my top 10 worst movies of the year, and I cannot wait for those reviews. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, leave a like, and I'll see you guys later.